always come.
Diagnosis. All right, have a good show, y'all.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, you can leave it open. Ain't nobody coming in.
Very early. There
Okay,
are
use that
very
last
few
one.
signs, but some of the types of symptoms you might find would be coughing that doesn't go away, back pain that doesn't go away, and anything respiratory that doesn't seem to have another cause.
Arkansas is among 5 states that require insurance coverage of biomarker testing in only some insurance plans. Turner says they hope to increase opportunities for this test, which look for mutations in a person's DNA to help with early detection.
We'd like to see Medicaid and basically all insurance plans in Arkansas required to cover it. Because as you can imagine, not only catching lung cancer when it's in an early stage, but treating it effectively is not only going to save lives, it's going to save healthcare costs.
I'm Frida Ross, Arkansas News Service. Find our trust indicators at publicnewsservice.org.
Hello, my name is Virgil Phillips, and I'm the City Director for Ward 1, and I proudly support KABF Radio 88.3.
Support for KABF 88.3 FM comes from listeners and community partners. If you're a business owner or planning an event and would like information on how it can be announced on KABF, contact our office at 501-372-6119. That's 501-372-6119.
Hello, treasured listeners. This is Steffi from Never Mind the Morning Show, and it's time to celebrate the season KABF style. Join your favorite radio hosts and fellow listeners for our holiday hangout on Tuesday, December 9th from 5 to 7 p.m. at Whitewater Tavern. Kick back during happy hour, enjoy a live DJ set from Charles Ray of Bantamount Radio, and grab some exclusive KABF merch for the holidays. It's our way of saying thanks for supporting the voice of the people. See you Tuesday, December 9th, 5 to 7 p.m. at Whitewater Tavern, only with KABF 88.3 FM.
Morning, good morning, good morning. Hey, you heard it. It's after 9 o'clock. You know what time it is. It's time for the workplace here exclusively on KABF 88.3, Voice of the People Community Radio. I hope everybody's having a great Thursday so far. For those of you who celebrate Thanksgiving, I hope you're having a great Thanksgiving day. For those of you who don't subscribe to holidays, I hope you're having fun. I hope you're enjoying your day. I'm your host for the workplace, Tony Orr, and in studio is my beautiful, vivacious, fierce co-host, the Reverend Dr. Denise Donnell.
Grand Rising humans, can somebody tell me when basketball season is going to be over, please? Please, somebody let it be over. Thank y'all for joining us this morning. Hotep already on the line. Life, prosperity, and health, wishing to all of you.
Okay, so I want to make a quick announcement. We're having trouble with our phone line, so you won't be able to call in.
What?
Yeah, you won't be able to call in. But if you have any questions, if you have any comments for those who are on Facebook or StreamYard, you can ask questions to the social media platform. If you have some other questions that you want answered or want to talk about today, go ahead and send me a message at 501-247-3869. That's 501-247-3869. Do not try to call me because I'm using my phone.
Well, you can call me at 228-236-7440. Turn me up. 228-236-7440. Down there. Yeah, turn me up. I'm on 2. Mm-hmm. Can you hear me now? 228-236-7440. 228-236-7440. Get those comments in. We really want to hear what you have to say.
Okay. Now, do you have any?
I do have an announcement. Thank you so much for asking. Here we go. Let me get to it. Here we go. Oh. The Starlight Foundation World AIDS Day is happening in the first week of December, not just December 1st, the first week of December. And it's going to highlight comedian Mr. Andy Feds with a keynote speaker, Bishop Lloyd Edwards. 2025, let communities lead, rethink, rebuild, and rise. That is the theme. On December 1st at 11 a.m., there will be a virtual health policy forum on Zoom. Virtual, it's on Zoom. December 2nd, Ubuntu, civic engagement in City Hall Boardroom 500 West Markham, happening at 6 p.m. December 3rd, House of Love preview, 1900 Scott Street from 3 to 7 p.m. December 4th, comedy show at the Living Room Wellness Resource Center, 8619 Chico Road with Mr. Andy Fez from Las Vegas with opening act Mr. Jamad Emanuel, and there is a suggested donation. December 5th, 3rd annual Torch Awards ceremony will take place at the Living Room Wellness Resource Center, 8619 Chico Road in Little Rock, and that starts at 7 p.m. Consider sharing a gift from our Amazon wish list. All donations will support our House of Love housing concepts. If you want more information, you can reach out to Tommy at that's not right. You can reach out to Tommy at arrapps.org or dial 501-379-8357. Let's celebrate World AIDS Day.
Okay, thank you for those announcements, Denise. I have a couple announcements. The Michael Van Johnson Jr. Post 74 of the American Legion in Sherwood, Arkansas, is presenting their Blue and Gold Gala Saturday, December 13th at 7 p.m. at the Holiday Inn Presidential, 600 I-30 in Little Rock. The semi-formal attire. For tickets, contact Katrina White at 254-681-1626, Lewis Trice at 501-256-7829, Carl Z. Edwards at 501-912-2869, and Gayla Lanham at 501-612-9621. KABF Holiday Hangout Fundraiser Tuesday, December 9th from 5 to 7 p.m. at Whitewater Tavern. Live DJ set from DJ Charles of Botonox Radio. Kick back and meet KBF hosts doing happy hour. Grab some exclusive KBF merch for the holidays. Donate at www.kabf.org. Support for KBF at 8.3 FM comes from listeners and community partners. If you're a business owner or planning an event and would like information on how it can be announced on KBF, contact our offices at 501-372-6119. That's 501-372-6119. And just want to remind everyone that we are still in pledge drive. Your pledge, your donation goes to the sustainability of KBF 88.3 FM. We've been on the air for going on 41 years now. We're in our 41st year of being on the air. It's only one of 12, and I think it's less than 12 now with some of the things that have gone on with public broadcasting. But we are a top, as they said, top shelf radio station as far as wattage. As far as the wattage, you cannot go any farther than 100,000 watts. And we are at 100,000 watts. It's all community-based radio. The listening audience is voice of the people in the community. You can give three ways. You can go to www.kbf.org and you can go online and do it. While you're there, you can click the donate button, become a sustaining member of KBF. Then let me stop right there because it's so important that the attack on public media, there's an attack on public broadcasting, there's an attack on anything that's going to educate, enlighten, anything anything that produces different type of voices for the masses. There is a complete attack that they want it shut down. And in order to keep going, a lot of these media outlets, whether it's television stations, whether it's public radio through universities, a lot of them are getting ready to close their doors because they were getting so much support from the government. Well, KBF does not get any support from the government. It does not get any support from the state. It does not get any support from what's called the Association of Broadcasting. I can't think. Public broadcasting. We don't get any. We don't get any support from them. All our support comes from listeners, donors, a few organizations that contribute to underwrite to KABF 88.3. There's an old saying: you never miss your water till the well runs dry. You never miss what you have until you don't have it. And there are so many people. The one thing about KBF, we reach into places that you may not get. You know, if you're ever driving down the highway, you're traveling, and you get in those spots where you cannot find anything on the radio, just static. Well, with KBF, you can pull us up on your app. You can pull us up on our website. There's so many ways you can listen to KBF. And so I just want to thank all of you who donate, thank all of you who contribute, and just actually continue to contribute and donate to KBF 88.3 FM. So some news coming out of the labor community. A federal judge has overturned one of the president's executive orders. He had overturned and said it was illegal and told the federal government to reinstate collective bargaining for a lot of federal employees. The Association of Government and Federal Employees filed several lawsuits against the Trump administration because he just decided that he did not want to have collective and bargaining contracts anymore. And so it's gone through a lot of different series of court challenges, but eventually it's going to end up back at the Supreme Court. But the Supreme Court had ruled last year or earlier this year on some other cases where federal employees were, the Trump administration was told that what they were doing was illegal. You cannot, excuse me, because these are binding contracts, and you didn't go through the due process into these contracts, and also that these workers have a right by law to organize, to have collective bargaining, and everything. And so on the labor front, that's a victory. Another thing that has come out, Starbucks has now added more strikes. There are currently over 200 Starbucks stores that are on strike. I got information tomorrow that if you're not doing anything and you want to go to the, I think the Starbucks store on Cantrell, they are doing they're going to picket. They're going to have speeches. But you're to that point now.
At what time?
I have to look at my phone for that. I know it's going to be an all-day thing. I don't know what time it starts. If you want that information, please text me or call me at 501-247-3869 once I get off the air, and I can give you that information.
Say the number again, slow down.
501-247-3869. And I can get that information to you. But you're starting to see that a lot of different people, a lot of different organizations, a lot of different workers, they're starting to resist. They're starting to put up resistance to a lot of what's going on, a lot of things that are happening. You may not. I think a lot of times people don't care until it affects them, until their rights are being taken away, to their freedoms are being taken away. I think a lot of people just go along with it, and have the attitude, well, if it doesn't hit my house, I know you said this before, Denise, well, if it doesn't hit my house, if it doesn't affect me directly, then I ain't got time for it. I don't care. But once it hits you, then it's like, oh, we got to do something. But so many times there's information out there. There's people talking. There are workshops. There are conferences. There are places. There's so many different spaces where people are talking about, hey, this is what's coming. This is what's coming. This is what's coming. It's kind of like if they say, hey, it's going to rain. It's going to rain. It's going to rain. It's going to rain. And you just ignore it. Then all of a sudden, you caught out there, you get wet. And you say, oh, man, I'm wet. Now, I got this going on. And somebody said, well, we've been talking about this for a week. You knew it was coming. And so there are some things that are happening that we know that we've been talking about that's coming. And it comes to a point where you have to be able to jump in when you can to try to resist. Denise, I cannot think, my mind went blank a second ago. And I want to see if you can pull this up real quickly. The last surviving person of the Tulsa massacre died this week. I think it was Monday. God, I can't think of it. I want to say Miss Ford, but that she was 102.
Viola Ford Fletcher.
Yes. And I tell you what was so heartening about this whole thing is that she was a little girl, and she talks about how she saw her neighborhood just burnt, everything that's burnt down. She talked about how even as they were leaving in a horse-drawn wagon, that they were still shooting at people, shooting at the families, and everything. She moved to California. She finally moved back to Tulsa, and she's been on this for years. She's been on this crusade to bring awareness to what happened in Tulsa. I want to say 1921.
And the Tulsa riot,
Yeah.
massacre is in the 20s.
And so, and all this went all the way up to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court issued a ruling saying that basically it was nothing they can do. That you can't hold the state responsible and force the state to give back, do anything. And even as I was reading the article the other day, it said even to this day, the state of Oklahoma said, okay, we're going to do reparations, but nobody has ever received anything, and there's been nothing that's truly been put in place to economically or financially help those descendants. And it just let us know that one of the things that people bank on do when it comes to the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, or whatever, they have their traditions. They embody the traditions of their families. They embody the traditions that have been passed down from generations to generations. And I thought about that this morning, and as I was driving in, and it was one of these days that normally I'm not a late person. Very seldom do I just arrive on time. I try to be early. And I was just thinking this morning because I was having a conversation with my 87-year-old. She's going to be 88 on Saturday. My Aunt Juanita. Yeah. And so we were just she started talking about the way it used to be. The way it used to be. And how some of the things she had to deal with. Some of the things, traditions that were put in place to protect this. When we think about be at home for the street lights come on, that was a safety tradition. Because once the street lights came on, it was dark, and it is dark. Of course, there were organizations like the Ku Klux Klan. There was white people they would pull you off the street in daylight. But a lot of times it was nighttime when they wanted, to do these deeds. And so to protect the children and to protect especially the women, excuse me, it was put in place to be home before the street lights come on. And also, she was talking about these traditions of making sure that you stay close to home, all these things. And so when you think about Thanksgiving and holidays, these are traditions that are, when you talk about food, when you talk about recipes, when you talk about coming together, these are things that families have passed down generation to generation, and they have called traditions. When I think about the Tulsa massacre, and you think about the descendants, you think about the tradition that was passed down in their family about running, about smelling charred bodies, about fire, about fear. And when you look at it, those traditions, there are some traditions that are still passed down into our black families, the black collective. You still pass down the tradition of you got to watch the police. It's still passed down of the tradition you can't trust this. You still passing down the tradition that you are a black male, or you got twist or dreads, or you got a hoodie on, you have to be careful. It's still passed down tradition that if you walk in a store, make sure you don't have your hands in your pocket. Make sure you're not looking at something and then you walking around the store with it. Make sure you put it in your basket so they can see it. It's these things that it's these things that are still passed down, and really they're traditions. But we don't want to look at it like that. We want to look at the tradition. Oh, hey, we taught that you put, and don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. These family recipes, these family gatherings, these things they do, they serve a purpose. They do. They serve a purpose to keep certain things going on in the family, to remind the family or remind people of the togetherness of the family. But we can't dismiss these other traditions that we don't want to break either. I cannot stand. It's two statements or two things that has been created that I can't stand. I can't stand when they said orange is the new black. Because they were talking, it was about a women in prison. I hated that. I thought it was just a backhanded slap to black people, since we are incarcerated at a higher rate than any other ethnic group. And then Black Friday, I know Denise explained it on Tuesday what it meant, but to me it's a backhand slap, because it's almost like we know that Black people spend money, that our spending habits are greater than any other race, any other ethnic group. And to me, it's almost trying to make you feel good about something. But in reality, all it is filling the pockets of corporate America. I know I said a lot, I ran my mouth. Denise, will get on me from time to time saying, you just talk. So I need to take a break. She does it for me, and I appreciate it. So here's my opportunity to shut up, get some comments from Denise, and see if anybody made any comments online.
I did have a text question come in. I'll get to that as soon as I can locate the exact number of what's being asked. But when you started talking about people coming to, when you extended the invitation for people to come and support the resistance that's happening tomorrow with Starbucks, I thought of, and you talked about how if it doesn't happen at your door, many times you overlook it, you dismiss it, you don't pay attention to it. But I also want to talk to those people who do show up in those spaces, so that you can consider the why behind your showing up. Like, what are you saying to yourself, and what are you saying to the community? And this is one of the quotes that I love when we're talking about movement work. It's from Lilla Watson. She says, "If you have come here to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together." I'm going to repeat that. If you have come here to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. Because some people show up because we have what's called this white savior complex. You show up because you think that it can't be done without you. You show up because at some point you want your name to be in lights. You want them to write it down and look at what you did, like you are the reason why, like you came and saved the poor little whoever people because they didn't know how to do it on their own. But this brown woman, this brown elderly fierce woman says, no. I don't need you to help me. I know how to fight. I know how to strategize. I know how to get it done. I need people who are in it for the long haul. I need people who realize that we are working together in the spirit of Sawubona, that spirit of oneness that says, if it's happening to me, it's happening to you. And so if you feel that way, we're going to get more done because we can work together. If you don't feel that way, at some point, the conversation is going to dissolve. And like she said, you're going to waste our time. And so I wanted to make sure that I shared that as part of the conversation when you invited people to come and see you to participate on not tomorrow, on Saturday on Cantrell Road at the Starbucks. So that's one thing. And I also wanted to bring up when you were talking about our elder in the movement. Can we take a pause for her?
Yes.
Since she died a couple of days ago. So let's just pause for a minute and just reflect on 111 years in this country. Doesn't matter which state she moved to, doesn't matter which state she was born in this country, this anti-Black country and world we live in. Imagine 111 years. What has she seen? What has she gone through? What does she reflect on? Are we her wildest dreams in the way that we are living? And since you brought it up, Tony, in the way that we are spending, does she look on us as generations in past and say, oh my goodness, I'm so glad to pass the torch to them. Oh my goodness, I believe that they're going to do the work that we have that has not yet been completed. What do you think she's saying about how we are living and how we are moving in this world based on her 111 years? I just want to pause for a moment and let's just reflect on her life. Just remember her and just honor her in this moment. Thank you for that. And so we're talking about reparations, and you said some people in Tulsa are talking about reparations, and people don't want to talk about reparations because the word reparations itself is a political word. If you're going to really talk about reparations, then that means you have to own up to what you have done, and you have to be held accountable for it publicly, go on record, and let the whole world know that you recognize and you realize and you acknowledge and you are willing to repent for the harm that you have caused. This country, United States of America, does not want to do that. So anytime we talk about reparations, all this other stuff comes up. But yet you have a president right now in the White House right now who is seeking reparations from his own Department of Justice. He's asking for $230 million for his past judicial cases. That's what reparations. If you know that you have been harmed by something that the government did and it was sanctioned by the government and you want the government to atone for it, then those are reparations. So Miss Viola Flora Fletcher and the rest of the targets of the Tulsa race massacre, no, they don't get reparations, but Donald Trump expects to get reparations. And so this whole thing, I don't want to say thing, but I feel like these dots are being connected when you talk about how if it's not you don't want to talk about it. If it doesn't affect your house, you can just dismiss it. That's a privilege that you have to dismiss what's happening to other folks and causing them harm. And so let's not act like we don't know what reparations are. Let's not act like we don't understand how it works. Let's not act like we don't know how to get it done. Let's just be honest and say, I don't want to do it. Because most of the problems that we're dealing with in this country, they are solvable if we are willing to solve them. And we are not, because we'd rather be complicit because there's some benefit that you're getting from your complicity. And that's what we need to be talking about. And I wonder what people are going to be talking about today on Thanksgiving. Like, what are we giving thanks for? Are we giving thanks for the slaughter of the Native Americans, for the forceful removal of natives from their own land? Are we being thankful for the colonizers that came over and acted like they just discovered a land that was already inhabited by somebody else? Are we giving thanks for the diseases that the colonizers brought that killed a lot of the people that were what exactly are we giving thanks for? Like, I'm not sure. And so if you say, well, no, we're giving thanks for family, that's the lie they want you to. That's when you talk about tradition, that's what they want you to think about. That's why they changed the whole thing around. No, this is a moment of gratitude to tell the Lord thank you for all that you've accomplished. Let's look back over our life. If it hadn't been for the Lord, let's talk about what we were grateful for. No, let's talk about what really happened today. And if you're willing to do that around the table, I say yes, have a happy Thanksgiving. If y'all just be here talking about, oh girl, that dressing was good. Oh, and don't get me wrong, I sure wish I could have some of my mama dressing right now because this is good. But even when we talk about how much we're going to eat, I was thinking about this when we talked about in the country, in the climate we're living in, if Black folks really are serious about fighting, we got to have somewhere to go. Tony, you talked about people snatching you off the street. Okay, people coming after you. How many of us would be able to run a mile? How many of us could run half a mile right now? If somebody was after you, coming after you to kill you, how many of you could escape on foot? And so we have to think about all of those things when we talk about what it means to live any amount of time, but especially 111 years in this country.
Yeah, and you know, also going back to what I was talking about with uh, these traditions. You know, when you were talking about it, and I'm glad you brought that correlation between when you're talking about reparations, because it's very interesting. Here you had, you know, and this where white privilege shows up. Here you have this person who's saying that, hey, uh, I need reparations. You know, you prosecuted me, even though it was legit prosecution. Even though, you know, how many people who go into court, you know, and who are prosecuted, but they win on appeal. You know, the courts throw it out. Do they get? Do they get an opportunity to say, hey, well, you owe me money because of what you sent me through? No. But see, that's where this elite white privilege stands up to, you know what? And people, there are people who say, oh, poor him, poor Donald Trump. Yes, it was a witch hunt. It was a hoax. They came after him. Of course he deserves 230 million. But then you turn around, these same people will turn around and say, yeah, I know they were whipped. I know we created laws where they couldn't get jobs. I know we created laws where they had to, they couldn't live where they wanted to. They couldn't get educated like they wanted to. We raped, we murdered, we pillaged, we burnt down neighborhoods, and they want reparations. Ah, no, it is what it is. Just forget about it. And see, those are traditions that are being passed on. You know, are being passed on through generation to generation. And you have to be able to look at it and see it for what it really is. You know, that comes and like I said, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. In talking to my aunt this morning, it was such a joy. Well, we were up drinking coffee about 5 o'clock this morning. But it was such a joy. Somebody that I miss so much is Denise's mother, T, Brenda Donnell. We used to have what you call coffee and conversation on Tuesday mornings. I would, for a while she would cook breakfast and we would, but then it got to a point where I would bring breakfast. We would sit in the living room and we would reminisce. We would talk. I would listen to her story and she would listen to my story. We would laugh. We would, it was so great. That's a tradition. We had established a tradition, but the tradition was based on reality. It was real. And talking to my aunt this morning, it reminded me of that. And she started telling me, and one thing that she said that sometimes we don't realize, she looked at me and she said, Tony, there's some things you don't know about the things we went through. And the reason you don't know, I can't tell you. Because it's still fresh in my mind. It's still like it was yesterday. It's difficult for me to tell you. One day we may be able to tell you. And I think that's what happens in our community sometimes. It's that there's a story that needs to be told so that it can influence, it can motivate, it can inspire somebody else. And as this conversation went on with my aunt this morning, my daughter Tamara, you know what? Tamara would be a great investigator. She'd be the one they send in to crack the person, because Tamara gonna get out of you what she want to get out of you. And I kept listening as I left the room. I could still hear them talking, and my aunt was confiding some things with Tamara. And we all need to find someone that we can confide in, so that we can not only not only what's the word I'm looking for?
Maybe a catharsis for you, the one that's telling the
Yeah,
story.
to
You
get
can get
it
it
out,
out
but
and,
but
and
more
experience.
importantly, that someone else can hear when you talk about passing the mantle, passing the baton, because you know you got to know, you got to be in the race to know what you're passing to, because and I think and I could tell before I left to come to do the show, Tamara looked at me. She said, "Daddy, I didn't know." I said, "That's terrible." And I said, "Well, Tamara, what you gonna do about it?" She said, "What can I do about it?" I said, "It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot of things you can do about it. You can bring awareness to other women. You can bring awareness to young Black women. You can bring awareness to children. It's a lot you can do." And she said, "You know what, Dad? Yeah, yeah." And I said, "I'm gonna do it in the name of Juanita." Okay, that's how you. Those are the traditions that you want to see passed down to honor the elders who have gone through.
But when you brought up that analogy about passing the torch, the baton, I thought about when I watch those people who they rate the track and field competitions where they have to hand the baton to the person. And one of the things that I thought about just now is the person who's running. You said you got to be in the race. The person who's running, everybody's in the race. The person who's running with the baton has to trust that there is somebody back there behind them that's gonna grab it when they extend the arm. Because what I've noticed is that the runner with the baton never looks back. They don't look back to see if you're there. They're trusting that you are there, and you've been practicing. You've been in a relationship long enough for me to build that trust so that I can just reach my arm back and know that you're there. And I'm afraid sometimes when I think about communities all over the country, all over the world, but I'm always about the Black community. I'm afraid that we aren't. Like, who am I passing to? Who is Aunt Juanita passing to? Who did T pass to? Who is Miss Viola Ford Fletcher passing to? Fletcher. If you say, well, to Denise, to Tamara, well, we're our immediate family. We got to go beyond that, right? We got to pass to a larger audience, and we got to build up that trust and nurture those relationships. I just thought about that when you said that. But I do want to answer this question. It came in on my text. The question was, how many people died in the Tulsa race massacre? How many people died? And this is what I've been able to find. It's a paragraph. So let me read this paragraph. More than 800 people were admitted to hospitals, and as many as 6,000 Black residents of Tulsa were interned, many of them for several days. They were in the hospital for several days. The Oklahoma Bureau of Vital Statistics officially recorded 36 dead. The 2001 Tulsa Reparations Coalition, their examination of events identified 39 dead, 26 Black, and 13 white, based on contemporary autopsy reports, death certificates, and other records. The commission reported estimates ranging from 36 up to around 300 dead. And so that's what it looks like, the final answer, according to what we've been able to verify. 36 to 300 people dead. We don't know the exact number, but from 36 to 300 dead. And again, this is only what you will be able to find if you can verify. Let's think about those bodies that are the statistics that the bodies represent, that are represented by bodies that we can't find. We don't know. They didn't tell the story. They didn't make it to the hospital. So this is all they are able to verify through some kind of records between 36 and 300.
And I think it goes back to another situation. The Elaine massacre is the same way. And during these times when these incidents will happen, of course you're going to downplay how many people actually died, because going back, I think some years ago, as they were rebuilding some part of Tulsa, they unearthed a grave. A mass grave with bodies, and they were like, this is part, just from where it was part of what they believed was the Tulsa massacre. Elaine the same way, it's always these estimates, but in reality, I believe, just from reading just from, there's a great, I can't think of the name of it, but a documentary, I want to say it's on Netflix, where it talks about the Elaine, the Tulsa race massacre. And it's always talking about, you hear some eyewitnesses who said that it was hundreds. It may even be more than 300. But that's what happens. That's what happens when these things, even when you talk about Rosewood, Florida, same situation where just come in. And and then there's when you burn up these houses, when you set whole blocks on fire, what about the people that didn't get out? And what about the people who left loved ones, but they were afraid to go back and tell somebody my loved one was in this house, my loved one was in this building, because they know if I go back, I'm gonna end up in the grave. So you have to understand that. You have to see that. And so these are things, and I agree with you, Denise. Sometimes people will say, why do we still talk about this? Why are we, hey, some people might even say, you bringing me down on Thanksgiving. I want to just eat and happy, watch football, and. But sometimes you have to stop and you have to remember. You have to remember these things because they're still happening. They may not be throwing a rope over the tree and lynching you. They may not be telling you can't come through the front door anymore. They may tell you that you got to drink out of different water fountains anymore. But the system is doing the same thing. They're lynching our children by taking away public funds for education. They are telling us to, you can't drink out this water fountain by red line. They still red line in our areas. They still telling us you can't live here, you can't live there. They're still targeting. Where they say it used to be, no, racial profiling doesn't work. And so here's something that's interesting, and I want to get your take on it, Denise. So the Supreme Court said that Border Patrol and ICE can use certain aspects of a person's appearance, which is profiling, and how they go about conducting their business and making arrests. So the first thing that came to my mind was that it's nothing that you're going to agree with to do to another race that you show ain't that you're going to say, well, we won't do it. We won't do it with no other race. We just won't do it. Of course you're going to. You've been doing it with black people for years. You've been racial profiled up forever. So now, you want to fight. It's great. Now you want to fight for the Hispanics not to be racial profile. Hold on. See, I think that's the thing that gets me sometimes. What's your take on it?
Okay, before I give you my take on it, let me go back because when I was reading the paragraph for the listener, something I said didn't feel right when I said that they were interned in the hospital. I just want to go back to that. 800 people were admitted to the hospital. More than 6,000 residents were being held captive while they were working through whatever they were trying to work through about what happened. So not 6,000 in the hospital. That's what I said. So I just want to correct that. 800 people were admitted. 6,000 were being kept like prisoners of war. And then we talked about the 36 to the 300. But in thinking about the numbers, we cannot ever rely on the numbers like you said, Tony. We can't, because when you said that about the numbers, immediately I thought about Seneca Village. Seneca Village was that Black neighborhood that was in New York that they erased and forcibly removed the Black residents from in order for them to build Central Park. So people go to Central Park, you talk about how beautiful it is and how you want to walk around the park, you want to walk your dogs. And so because we're talking about, let's connect the dots about sharing stories, because this country is hell bent on making sure that the stories are not told, the stories that you hear, the stories that are in the media, the stories that are promoted, you think that that's the truth. So you can't wait to get to Central Park so you can say, oh my goodness, I went to the park. It was so wonderful. And I walked my dog and I was looking for birds or whatever you were doing, without realizing that you are standing and walking on land where the blood still runs warm for the Black folks who have yet to receive reparations for what was done to them. And so we can't think, I don't know, I don't even hear people talking about that, let alone trying to count the people who were harmed, by dehumanized, their lives destroyed, but so that white folks can have a park. So we got to be able to tell stories. But I do agree, I do wrestle with that. Like, how do we help our elders tell the stories without re-traumatizing them? And so I don't know the answer to that, but so I have to honor their inability to share because it's so painful, and try to figure out what the workaround could possibly be. Because if you are like with Anita, like I think you are, like I was with T, you sitting at them feet, like you just, it's like every morsel that's coming out of her mouth, you trying to catch it and hold on to it and write it down, and so that you can figure it out. As far as profiling is concerned, I'm just like, this is the only thing I feel about that now. The same things that they were doing back when we were talking about Viola Ford Fletcher with T, and when she was growing up, with Aunt Juanita when they were growing up, they were blatant with it then. And the only thing I feel like now is that they're blatant yet again. I think they were trying to become covert about it, a few years ago, a few decades ago. We're still doing the same thing, but we're trying to cover it up. We're trying to sugarcoat it. We're trying to make sure we don't have on a hot mic when we say it. But now we're just going back to the fact that it's blatant. We just see it, and we're gonna legalize it. We're gonna say it's okay, so that you can't call me on the carpet, you can't hold me accountable, because it's legal for me to do. Redlining was legal, lynching was legal. All of those they were legal. And so I just feel like that's all we're doing. Who is that? I think it's Ezekiel who always says the past is just history is just the past coming through a different door. You know how he says it? Something like that. Yeah, something like that. Oh, I can't remember the exact words, but he's saying like we're just reliving what has already been lived, and it just looks different. This is a new iteration of it.
Yeah. Like I said, there's nothing new. There's nothing new. What has been will be again. And I was watching the news the other day. They was talking about, because people, a lot of people like these numbers. They like looking at the poll numbers and all this, But I don't have to look at the poll numbers because of the states that I deal with for the union, especially in Texas and Louisiana. There's a big Hispanic population. I know there's, you have it here in Arkansas, but those states are just, they just have a bigger population. And you can hear and you can see. It's almost like a disappointment. It's almost like this look. It reminds me of how a lot of poor white people are starting to see, where they really fit in, and they have this look like, what happened? And it showed that his polling among Hispanics has just bottomed out. It's like at 20-something%, And I said, if you can convince people of a lie to make it seem like the truth, then you can control them. You can do things. And so the same thing that convinced a lot of Hispanics, majority of Hispanics and majority of poor white people, that your enemy is the Black person. That's your enemy. It's the Black person that's causing you all your problems. And if you treat them like we treat them, then it'll be better off for you. And now they're starting to think, well, hold up, I'm not better off. In fact, you treat me the same way you treat them. And basically it's like, too late, I'm in power now. Too late. Now you got to deal with it. And so that's the thing. It lets me know when I talk to my aunt, and I said this on the show before, my aunt was appointed HR director for the city of Chicago by Richard Daley Sr. She was the first Black woman ever appointed into that position in the history of Chicago. And she talked about all that every day they came after her. Every day they came after her. Every day. And she said something, she said, I could not wait to retire. She said, I stood my ground. She said, but I could not wait to retire. She said, because the drain on me. And she said, then there were other Black people who she wanted to confide in, who she felt like, I opened the door for you. I opened the door for you to get this position. I opened the door for you to move up. I opened the door. And now, because you in the door, the first thing you do is come after me. And I help you. And she said, I could not wait to retire. She said, because it takes, and I think this is one of the things as Black people that we have to deal with. Sometimes we have to, as they say, grin and bear it. And I think a lot of it is because of the economics, the finances, the job. Okay, we have to, we need that. And so you have to grin and bear it. And that, and Denise, we talk about on Community Voices about having our own economic, have our own economics, have our own jobs, have our own thing. And I, when she talks about it, it's, you feel for like, wow. But then again, coming to where we are, how many of us have to step and fetch on our jobs just to keep our jobs?
So, Lo, I want to say thank you for reminding us of what he calls him, Brother Mac. Ezekiel got so many names because I call him Ezekiel, you call him Mac, Lo calls him Brother Mac, Miss Sarah calls him Moon. So you got so many names. It's the future is the past going through a different door. The future is the past going through a different door. Thank you so much for reminding us of that. And I also want to remind you, since you just mentioned economics, Tony, that there's a push, there's a campaign right now for us to live free. And the theme of it is we ain't buying it. We ain't buying it from Thanksgiving to Cyber Monday. There's a blackout against Target, Home Depot, and Amazon. Hold your money. No Target, no Home Depot, and no Amazon due to their support of harmful policies. Delete the shopping apps, donate to mutual aid, and support small businesses. That is something for you to consider.
Okay, we almost out of time. Hey, I'm not going to be here next week. I leave for France tomorrow for the Global Labor Institute. What I love about it, the person, they do it every 2 years. The person who puts it together, he's from Ghana. His name is Anu, and he brings all these organizers, all these different labor people together to say, hey, this is what's going on in these countries. Let's get some ideas of how to change this. Let's get some ideas. Let's protest. Whatever we need to do, what can we do? Because these are the world's most exploited workers in countries in continents of Africa, continents of Asia, South America. They are being exploited, and how do we counter that? So I know you're in good hands. Denise got you. So, any last words, Denise?
If we want to live in a world that is more just, more equitable, more peaceful, more inclusive, more loving, more kind, we have got to learn how to live and love differently.
The only thing I ask today, if you know someone that may not be as may not have the means or may not be able to have a meal today, you should be doing this every day. But make sure that you look out for others. Make sure that you know, pack some food and take it to those who are unsheltered. Take it somewhere and make sure that people can have something. And remember, if you're gonna love regardless. Don't place a criteria, don't place a label, don't place restrictions. If you're gonna love, just love regardless. All right, enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Love you guys. Remember, keep donating, keep donating, keep donating. Peace out.